The Mazda MX5 Miata is an absolutely great car from the factory, but there are a bunch of mods that you could do to your Miatas to make them even better. In this video, I'm going to be counting down my top 10 mods, plus a few more that I've done to my Miata. Before we get started though, let us know down below what your favorite mod is for a Miata. Starting off at number 10, we have seats. So from the factory, the Miata seats are a fairly comfortable seat, but they don't have a lot of bolstering and support for when you're doing spirited driving. This means you could flop around in the seat a little bit more than you might want to, and you're not super held in. There are a few ways that you could go ahead and fix that problem by modding your car. The first is to do what people refer to as a foamectomy. This is when you're removing foam from your seat to basically make you sit a little bit lower in the car and also make your bolsters just do a little bit more. I skipped this entirely and I went ahead and put race seats in my car. The seats that I went with are Sparco Sprint 5 seats, and they have a lot of support for when you're doing spirited driving and track days. I personally really like these seats, although they do lack some lower back support, and there are tons of options that will fit in Miatas, so just do a little research. Counting down, number 9 on this list is one that's so important to have, but you never want to actually use. And that is this right here. A fire extinguisher. So I actually ended up using my fire extinguisher at the last track day I was at. Thankfully not for my car, but someone else's car caught on fire, and I was able to be one of 2 people with fire extinguishers in our car that went ahead, put that car out, and saved it. So if you have a Miata and you're doing mods with it and you're doing spirited driving, or you just want to be extra safe, I would recommend getting a fire extinguisher because after all, these cars are getting old and you want to protect it. These right here are cheap insurance. I personally have my fire extinguisher mounted to my harness bar with a skosh mount, which I'll have linked below. Number 8 on this list is floor mats. And I know that doesn't sound super exciting, but there are tons of really nice mat options that will upgrade the look of your interior and also make it more livable. The mats that I personally run are 3D Mats floor mats, which are a molded all-weather mat that actually look really nice. They're not like a really rubbery looking mat. They look textured and they look clean in there. And then I have a custom set of show mats that I run that matches the rest of my interior, but there are tons of options. Number 7 on this list is especially important for NA and NB Miatas, and that is roll bars. If you want that extra rollover protection, you could go ahead and get yourself a nice high-end roll bar. These will help support the car if you flip, and they're also required for a lot of forms of racing, so if that's something you're interested in, you're gonna need one anyway. Of course, do your own research to see what combination of roll bar, seat, and seat belt will work best for you, but I personally am a believer in the roll bar. For number 6, we're talking about radio upgrades. Radio upgrades on older cars like the NA and the NB are great because they modernize the car and they add some livability. Of course, these are very driver-focused cars, so you might not care about this one, but for me personally, when I'm driving around, I like being able to connect to the radio via Bluetooth and also have a touchscreen to play around with, change songs, and do things like that. If you're interested in upgrading your radio in your NA, I designed a custom kit to fit a 7012B radio, which is a cheaper radio, but it's a really nice upgrade for these cars. That kit could also be modified to run other radios as well. And now we get to number 5, and we could start talking about some performance upgrades. Number 5 on the list is an exhaust system. Now, you could get a catback exhaust that changes the tone of the car and saves you some weight for not that much money. There are cheaper kits out there for as low as $150. Then you could get something like an ISR kit, which is somewhere around $500, or you could go for like a MagnaFlow, which is in the $750 range. They really won't be too crazy in terms of performance gains, if anything at all, without a tune, but it's something to consider and it's something fun to play around with. On my car, I went ahead and did a full custom exhaust for about $65. If you like fab work and you like making your own parts, this could be an awesome route for you, and it's super fun. I'll get into the reason why I built a full exhaust now, and let's just say it added more than the few horsepower you would get if you just did a catback. Number 4 on my list is forced induction. Now, from the factory, Miatas are unfortunately, or fortunately, not very fast cars. But luckily, there are pretty easy ways to change that. On my car, I went ahead and turbocharged it, so now it makes much closer to 200 wheel horsepower than the factory 100 wheel horsepower. There are a lot of kits and a lot of options out there to do that, and I personally pieced together a kit for around $1,000, plus a few upgrades, and now I'm right around $1,200 for this kit. Of course, you could spend a lot more and get better performance than what I have here, but it is an absolute blast. You also could go ahead and supercharge your car, which could be a little bit less work, but generally the cheaper supercharger kits won't make the power of a cheap turbo kit. This is the biggest, most major modification that I've made to this car, and it totally changes how it drives, but it's not in my top 3 mods for everybody. Let's get into those now. The next 3 mods on this list are, in my opinion, the best things that you could do to a Mazda Miata. Number 3 on this list is suspension, specifically coilovers. Coilovers will allow you to lower your car, which will lower the center of gravity and allow it to handle better. Also, stiffer springs will allow it to corner flatter and be faster on track. I personally am running Yonaka adjustable coilovers on my car, and I have for about 6 years, and they're a very entry-level coilover, but they're a nice system that aren't too aggressive for people interested in that. Of course, you could also use coilovers to stance your cars and do things like that. Personally, it's not for me, but this is a way to do it. Again, these cars handle great from the factory, but with coilovers, it just makes it that extra bit better. Let's get into the next 2. Number 2 is something that I would recommend most people do before they actually even do coilovers, and that is Swaybars. Swaybars are what allow your car to corner flatter, and they transfer load from one side of your suspension to the other to help your car stay flat. They have a similar effect to running a stiffer spring on the car because your car does handle flatter, but it also actually doesn't really lose much comfort when you're driving around. This is because if both wheels hit a bump at the same time, it's like they still have the same spring rate. It's only when it's uneven, like when you're cornering or hitting a bump with one wheel, that it will make the car stiffer. Also, if you're into suspension tuning, you could tune Swaybars and run different stiffnesses front and rear compared to what they are stock to get different understeer or oversteer characteristics and really set your car up how you want it to perform. And finally, number 1 on my top list of modifications for a Miata is tires. And I know that's pretty basic, it's a really simple thing, but if you want to increase the performance of your Miata the fastest, and I'm talking lap time per dollar, you buy tires. With a grippier tire, you'll be able to push your car harder without even doing any other mods. If you like going for spirited drives or doing track driving with your car, this is the number 1 way to be faster without spending a ton of money. I personally run Falken 615K plus tires on my car, and I'm on my 3rd set. I found these things to be a really nice balance of grip and tire life, and I track this car a lot, and they have held up great. You'd probably be surprised what even a stock Miata could keep up with on a really nice 200 treadwear street tire. If you want to get tires for your car, I have a link down below to Priority Tire's site where you could find their best deals. Now let's go ahead and rapid fire a few more quick mods that didn't quite make my top 10 list, but I still think are really good. Stock Miata radiators have plastic tanks that are known to crack pretty easy, and an easy upgrade is to go to an aluminum radiator. If you want to increase visibility for both you and everybody you're driving around, you'll want to consider some LED light upgrades for all of your surrounding lights. An NB steering wheel is a really nice upgrade for an NA because the 3-spoke design I think just feels a lot better. And then you also could go ahead and wrap it with a custom wrap like this one from East Detailing. If you're interested in that and you want to save 10%, use the promo code CashedOutCars. Door bushings are a really easy way to reduce rattles on the doors and make them sound more solid when you close them. And to wrap up this list, aftermarket LED footwell lights are a really nice way to make the car feel a little bit more luxurious and a little bit more homey. And then you could also upgrade your cup holders because if you have a Miata, you know that the stock cup holders are pretty bad. And so guys, with all that, that's going to wrap up my top 10 mods plus a few more for the Mazda MX5 Miata. I absolutely love this car and I've been super happy with all of the mods that I did, but these are my top 10. If you want to see a full build spreadsheet on this car, I have it linked down below, and don't forget to let us know your favorite mod down in the comments. Like this video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I hope you stick around for the next one. Take care.